Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm gonna be giving you part 17 of What If Naruto was an elite Blue Uchiha. Remember to get this one to 100 like as usual. Share this to all of your friends in social media platform. And also guys, stay tuned for the rest of what is coming our way over on Anime King 2 and Anime King 3. If you're new, yes, you heard that correctly. I have 3 channels, Anime King, Anime King 2, Anime King 3, which I post what if on every single day for you guys to enjoy. So go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new, I'll be replying talking about all of you. So yeah, without further ado, would you say begin this new episode? Start the intro. So, the last spot we left off, Mikoto was confined as she could not go anywhere as the charges has been pressed against her for her being a blood traitor as she could not leave at all. As Kushina was at her home, she was there. She was just having a normal day until she received a phone number from a crow, as she called it. She was hearing about some people getting called by strange numbers and getting hypnotized and they were under the person's will. But with the Kyuubi's chakra inside her system, and she could break Genjutsu, she was confident enough that she could break it. But it was then that she heard his voice. It was none other than Naruto, as she spoke to him. The last time they promised to meet up, he was gone for 5 years. She cried. He told her no matter what, he just couldn't get over her, as she wanted to see him. But he told her that he would come and find her when he was finished with what he was doing, as she told him to promise, and he did, as he will find her no matter what. As she hung up, tears leaking from her eyes, she prayed to Kami that this time she will see him. The trial went on for Mikoto as she and Naruto was probed their mind, as she did it because she was jealous. Jealous of the broken brother that she never thought would accomplish anything. But yet, he did. So Naruto won the trial. Fukaku felt ashamed. The man felt utterly broken, knowing that even with him there, he did nothing to help his wife. As Naruto saw the crows dancing around him, by the end of the day he would probably kill himself. As Mikoto, eyes were taken away from her. She was broken, blind, as everyone simply turned their back, scorning her as she was led out of the clan. As Naruto said one parting word to her that made the crows came around her, as she lost hope. She was gonna die out there somewhere, not being able to see her kids for the last time. Time passed as Naruto's eyes opened, as he finally awakened it, the eternal Mangita Sharingan. All the kids were there as Naruto was like their supervisor over all of them. As he saw with Sasuke, as he made Shisui make the boy pancakes, because he had somewhere to go. He would be coming back this time no matter what, as Itachi was still sleeping. All of the past grief and everything finally lessened on his shoulders. Naruto made his way towards the Otsutsuki dimension, where he saw the other Otsutsukis there. It seems like Kaguya was the one in charge. As Naruto found Minato who had absorbed his half-soul, Kaguya did it because she think that by doing so, she could break Naruto's attachment to the human realm and make him be hers. As Minato has been trained the entire time, but Naruto has been through a lot. And now with the eternal Mangita Sharingan, Minato and him started the fight as Naruto started to create copies of himself. Minato lashed out at them, but no matter what he did, it was hard. As Naruto wanted to know how did Minato see this ending. But Minato was gonna kill him, that is what he thought. As he made a vow that he would kill Naruto no matter what. As he threw everything towards Naruto, as both of them engaged in a deadly battle. So yeah guys, that was basically as we left off. You guys can switch across to the place and check out for yourself so to begin this new episode. Forbidden Art Water Release. Sanzu River. As Naruto's cheeks bulged, Minato leaped away from Naruto as Naruto released wrath from his mouth. Raging red wrath that tore through the depths of the earth. The blistering water of the underworld carved out the battlefield, following Minato as he flashed and moved quick as he could around the battlefield, as he kept on jumping from seal tags to seal tags. But he was never able to rest because the red water just came rushing towards him at a terrible speed. Water that burned hotter than lava. Blue clicked his teeth shut as Minato appeared in front of him, swinging a left hook towards his chest. As Blue slammed the hand down before raising a knee, Minato slammed his hand down on it as he flipped over Naruto. He went through 5 hand signs in mid-air, a complex sealing array lit up under Blue. Earth Release. Excessive demonic binding chains. Dark chains exploded from the ground and wrapped around Blue, but Blue just finished his hand signs as they wrapped around him. Lightning Release. Solar Flare. Lightning rolled over Naruto's body, and Minato squinted his eyes, wondering if that jutsu can negate Fuinjutsu. His answer was a burning kick, slamming right into his gut as his body released a sonic wave. Minato was thrown like a rag doll. He had to slam his hands into the ground, clawing his hands into the dirt to stop himself from going too far. But the moment he stopped and he looked up, a foot slammed into his face, launching him backwards once again. Blue raised his hand as 9 walls erupted. Minato slammed through all first 8 before he slammed into the 9th one. Minato coughed as he staggered to his feet, blood dropping from his mouth. The white flames coiled around his body as he disappeared in a yellow flash. Blue tilted his head as a fist passed it. He leaped as he brought his foot around. Minato blocked it though with his arm. As Naruto brought his other foot down, slam. It dropped right on Minato's shoulder, slamming him into the earth. But Minato quickly flashed away as Minato appeared in a flash. As Naruto turned, bam, his feet slammed right into Minato's face, launching him backwards. Minato grabbed his jaw as Naruto was standing there, motioning for him to come. As Minato flashed away, as Naruto slapped away the fist and grabbed Minato's shoulders and drive his knee into the man's throat before slamming him into the earth. Minato was on the ground holding on to his throat, coughing and wheezing. The white flames around his body dimmed dramatically. Nah, I'm not gonna kill you. Well, technically you will be dead, but alive, you know? As Naruto chuckled darkly. In fact, you're gonna live forever. Kind of. Minato flashed away once again as he appeared and sent several slashes towards Blue's face with his string from kunai until Blue slipped right into his guard and cracked his elbow into Minato's sternum. As Naruto dug his fingers into the man's side and grabbed and pulled and yanked him backwards. As Minato doubled over, a fist slammed into his face, slamming his head into the ground. His eyes blur as the fist really connected hard. Do you know what I'm gonna do with you, Minato? Shut up, said Minato, as a Rasengan formed in his hand in a second as he launched it towards Blue. As Blue watched it come towards him, before slamming his feet down on Minato's hand. As the ball exploded in the earth, Naruto kicked Minato away once again. As that kick knocked Minato's brain against his skull, his head rattling pain and agony as blood exploded from his nose and his ears. Can you hear me? Blue said and laughed as he stepped around Minato. How about now? He whispered in his ear. Minato reached to grab Blue's neck, but he collapsed on the ground, panting for air, blood leaking from his nose and mouth. The white scales on his arms and his teeth receded back to normal. Tired, huh? Said Blue. Well, honestly, you last longer than I thought. I'm kind of impressed, said Blue. Fire monster, it was a thing they called Blue when they said that he stopped being human when he get pissed off. There was 2 separate occasions where Blue stopped being human. When Killer Bee had broke Yujito's knee, and when Blue had snapped Fukaku's arm for leaving Itachi in the forest. But that form, it was tiring to maintain. You need to be at the pinnacle of rage and madness, stepping on people, calling them bug and insects. You had the superhuman strength that came with it, and even a god complex. As Blue made it his best control to control his abilities and his emotions, so that he would not shift into fire monster most time. So that is why Blue was surprised that Minato had been the fire monster for 2 days and a few hours. To be in this state for that long. Anger was an emotion that could last for very long. So Blue was surprised that Minato was able to stay mad for that long. But the longer you were in that state, the more weaker you became once you dropped out of it. As Minato felt like the 8 tails that dropped on his lungs, with the rest of his body and his bones. As Naruto lifted Minato up by his hair and placed him down on his knees. Wait, Minato whispered, as Naruto cocked the eyebrow, before squatting down to eye level with the man. Please, Naruto, don't do this. Why shouldn't I do this? Naruto asked. Kushina, Minato whispered. Don't do this. Think about her. Your ex-wife, Kushina? Said Naruto, confirming that Minato was not hallucinating or something. As he wondered if the panic of death was confusing Minato. You mean the one that wanted a divorce and doesn't want to willingly talk to you? That Kushina? She loves me, Naruto. Since we were kids. She's crazy for me. Oh yeah? This is just a phase. Really? Said Naruto. If you harm me, she will find out and she'll hate you. Are you sure? Said Naruto. Minato chuckled, but there was no humor in his tone. You don't want her to hate you, do you, Naruto? Haven't you ever begged for your life? Naruto asked. I mean, this is bad. Really bad. As Minato realized right there and then, nothing would work to convince him. Begging like sweat running down your face, snot running from your nose, tears out of your eyes, crying out and praying to whatever coming that you can, that some act of mercy will save you from the inevitable. Naruto, I'm begging you, first. I'll be taking this, said Naruto, as he placed a left finger right on Minato's heart from his left hand, index and thumb finger. As he narrowed his eyes, right there, he said, he stabbed through and punctured Minato's beating heart, pouring his hellish chakra into the small organ. The effect was immediate. Minato dropped as he keeled over, bleeding from his chest and gasping smoke. The air around Blue Finger burned and blackened. Lungs, ribs, muscles, and skin. Minato coughed as he could no longer feel blood circulating through his body. As his eyes started to bleed, his lungs shuttered and deflated. As his body slowly shut down in the most agonizing, painfulest way ever, death took him. And Naruto claimed his soul as he pulled his finger from Minato's chest and cleaned his finger of the blood in Minato's blonde hair. He unsealed his tanto and sliced through Minato's neck as Minato's head slipped off and dropped to the earth. That was when his eyes snapped open, lips quivering to speak the horror of the abyss that Blue was showing him. Blue snapped his finger and Minato's head exploded with flames, burned in a flame that could never be extinguished. Even if Minato could talk, he couldn't describe the amount of agonizing, torturous pain that he was feeling. And lastly, because I'm still pissed, as he waved his right hand over his shoulder and the Shinigami poured out of Naruto's back. No longer was it a being of damnation. After Naruto had demoted the Shinigami, it was a humble skeleton wearing a mask with a dark cloak on. Blue had understood that the Shinigami could not disobey Minato when summoned, but he didn't get an apology. Pick him up, said Naruto. Death silently picked up Minato's head, the burning skull in both hands. He's your responsibility now. You're free to come back home in maybe a few hundred years. By then, toss Minato into the sea. Death nodded and made his way into the distance. His limited ability, granted by Blue to him, allowed him to pass into different dimensions. Imprisoned in the burning skull. Minato's last thought was that he should have left the Blue Uchiha alone, as he would suffer, burn for eternity. As Naruto waited, as a thin spider web came out from the corner of his right eye, as he closed his left, the final evolution of his clan dojutsu, the two triangles of his eternal, broke apart and cracked as white seeped through the darkness of his eyes, as 3 circles appeared in each of his eyes, with 9 megatamas. It was different from what he glimpsed from Kaguya, a red eye with black circles. And he didn't expect it to be the same. The Otsutsuki dimensions shake and tremble as his eye, fully awoken, the Rinne Sharingan, a crown of hellfire appeared above his head. Completeness flowed through him as he got his other half. Knowledge flowed through his mind. It was a lot. Information dating back to when the god tree was a sap, and the planet was a vast, empty void of water and flames. Centuries of knowledge unfurled in front of his mind as they were all in his head. Billions upon billions of worlds and universes, dimensions, that he thought were not even there when he was incomplete. Kingdoms being torn down, galaxies collapsing, cities melting, magic, worlds of different deities, animals, all-powerful gods, alternate version of himself in different timelines. He had omnipresence, awareness of his place in the universe. He could see the foundations, the core of everything. Know that he had his full soul. He tapped into the realm of godlyhood. As he realized his demonic eye did not come from Kaguya lineage. No, it did not. It was via his connection to the god tree, the crow contract, thus the underworld, where a single bark from the god tree had fell into a pool of fire. Kaguya, she was not a manifestation of the koi fish contract, or the embodiment of heaven. She ate the god fruit, and she was poisoned by the rawness of a chakra. Her clan searched the globe, and they later came across the koi fish contract, which Kaguya merged with to save her life. Her enslavement of all the humans on the planet caused her two sons to rise up against her and battle her. 7 months later, they trapped her in the moon, her immortal prison. The Osutskis rebel from the act of the two sons, but a fuin jutsu used by the young boy locked them away in their home dimension, isolated from the events of the planet. Blue blinked as he opened his other eye, the eternal mangita swirling in the socket, as he frowned. "So that's what you've been doing," he said. He found Zetsu. His eyes sucked him into a kamui as he appeared that I left the inn. Day was night. The dark sky was spotted with fiery stars. The statue of Blue Uchiha was falling, replaced by a pillar of whitish wood, imbued with the chakra that Minato had when he merged Blue Half Soul. The pale moon was close to Earth. It was pulled close to the planet orbit by the inferior god tree that was filled with blue chakra. Zetsu was at the top of the tree, roaring in celebration as he watched a white Zetsu clone of Minato Namikaze finish the hand signs as Naruto activated the Amaterasu and burned the tree into nothingness. Zetsu leaped off the tree as black fire consumed it as the clone got burned, but Naruto was too late. The moon bloomed like a flower. It curled open and released an immaculate light. The planet stopped. The wind itself was afraid to blow. People around the continent left their house and gazed up. They were stunned by the toxic fear and dread. Alarms blared across the continent, and children were being held close tightly by their parents. As Blue blew away the smoke from the false god tree, as he got a good look, a heavenly aura covered the goddess as she floated right there in the sky. Kaguya came out of the moon, and her glorious Rinne Sharingan shined down on the earth. Her noble smile bathed the world in a magnificent peace, warming every soul in a blissful calm. As Naruto unholy Rinne Sharingan looked back, coupled with his eternal Mangita Sharingan, as the woman looked down towards him. "Blue," she said, as she sent him a small wave. "Hey," she said. She trusted by the time he lost all of his earthly connections, he would embrace her for all of eternity, as they should. They were gods. Fate had joined their path together before they were even born. He will soon understand that when all things pass and everything turned to dust, the both of them will still remain. After all, they were gods. Life and death, heaven and hell, paradise and damnation. It seems like this day Kaguya and Naruto would collide. Reality was never going to be the same ever again once they do. It happened quickly. Blue Rinne Sharingan widened and pulsed, cancelling out the massive shockwave from Kaguya's heavenly eye on her forehead, saving Fire Country from being bathed into nothingness. Though a few tremors rolled through the nation, the corner of her lips turned up into a smile as her palm raised to the heavens to grip the blackness of the night. It seems 10 truth-seeking balls formed behind her as the wind blew her kimono, as the full length of her white hair swished behind her. As Blue knew what jutsu she was about to drop on the planet, as he could remember it from the bottom pit of the underworld. After all of his knowledge that was bestowed upon him, he knew what she was about to do. She combined all 5 nature transformations and also yin yang release as a spear formed from her hand as she brought the truth-seeking balls together with it. Expanded. Truth-seeking balls, she said. As the thing turned massive, she threw it, ready to just wipe out the entire planet there and there. Blue launched himself as he landed on Hoshirama's statue. He moved with a speed that was unseen by normal eyes as Blue leaped as he was in mid-air, looking at the giant death ball that was about to hit as he muttered two words. Reflection. Susanoo. His Susanoo exploded around him in all of its infernal glory. It started off as an eternal skeleton with a skull that had no mouth, but two nose hole and 6 open eyes, holding the Mangita Sharingan, the Eternal. As it raised its hand and catch the infernal ball of darkness, muscles and ligaments bind together, creating flesh over the arms of the bones. As it struggled against the massive ball, white scales came over the arm of Susanoo as a cloak came over his head, as its red eyes glow ominously. As Naruto was in the chest as he roared, not even Death Hand could get past his reflection technique and he added Susanoo. But yet the weight of this ability was quaking the arms of his Susanoo. He pushed hard. His Sharingan bled. The ball blasted back towards Kaguya. She merely absorbed it back into her limitless chakra network. All this effort for them. You're making this harder on yourself. Her voice sounded like a noble as she spoke calmly. Just how long can you keep this up? Let's find out, said Blue, as he blinked, his bleeding eye closed and smirking, with his open Rinne Sharingan festering to be unleashed. The crown that was above his head blazed hot. It was filled with the suffering souls. Gladly, Kaguya said that flush. Something that would have looked rather cute if he did not know she was about to create mass genocide a moment ago. She beamed as she opened her arms to welcome him, radiating gleeful, and he went for her. Tongues of fire exploded from the corner of Blue's mouth as he shot himself towards her. His body caught on fire from the speed, but his clothes did not burn off his form. His fiery attack as he crashed into her ripped through 3 dimensions, opening a gaping hole of reality in the elemental nation. It was like 3 houses were right beside each other, and the 3 walls were broken down, as you could see in all the dimensions. Anyone with good eyes saw the neighboring worlds, and people who from the other worlds looked down as they saw. But the broken walls fixed themselves as reality set back in place as Blue Susanoo vanished. The 2 gods tumbling to a new dimension, created entirely by the Blue Sniper. All there was an island, as it was nothing but a massive lake around, as they slammed right into a palm tree, as the lake was on fire. As Kaguya hugged on to Blue, she didn't seem to mind the scorched spots on her clothing. He looked down. 4 bones were coming from her ribs that pierced into him. The area on his stomach whitened, and it started to crack away. The princess smiled. She rubbed his back as she murmured into his chest. All killing ash bones, she said. As the decay reached up to his nose, he turned his head as he projected himself over to the side as the Blue that she was holding on to completely vanished. The new Naruto ripped out a pair of kunai as he twirled them in his palms. As he observed her, she pushed off the tree and returned the bones back into her body. Honey, you'll have to mean it if you really want to pin me down, she said. All those centuries ago, the father of her 2 sons could not handle her insatiate vigor, but she had great expectations for the Blue God, who had a rather sizable reputation amongst the ladies. Blue gripped the kunais. What's your deal, lady? She tied her hair in a long ponytail. Why are you hell-bent on destroying everything? I don't like sharing, she said, as crackle of fire could be heard from the lake that was burning. What? Said Blue. I don't like sharing, Blue, and I certainly will not be sharing you with anyone. Not with your mother. Not with those cute children you're so fond of. Pardon me if I don't remember their names. Not with those other playthings. Not with those accountants that work for you. And definitely not with that confused redhead that you are pining after. I want you all to myself, and I will give my all to you. Honestly, I can be very jealous at some time, Blue, she said. She waved her arm down her dress. As she reformed it with yin yang release, it turned into an orange, sports top bra with a dark green tights, comfortable sneakers, and a similar shade. On her forearms and shin, bright orange guards appeared, complementing her orange tank top. with a mesh cover shirt over that, giving the man that she like a full view of her ample bosom. She didn't want to brag, but she looked good. Trust me, when this is said and done, you'll be thanking me. Connections like that can get really bothersome. She couldn't help but blush at what she had in store for the Blue Uchiha. The things that they will do. They were the most perfect couple. The perfect match. And their journey was gonna begin anytime now. She could be patient, ease herself into his heart. Some alone time before we start traveling wouldn't be so bad either. We can get to know each other better, to properly fall in love. I'm sure that you will love me too, she said. But as she looked at Blue, he wasn't ogling her. He was trying his possible best to understand the absurdity of the words spewing from her lips. So basically, because he had friends, a life of his own and family, that is why she wanted to obliterate the planet and make him be alone so that he could be with her, so that they could wander the universe. He shook his head as his crown infernated with fire, as horns grew from Kaguya's head. Bones grew from her palms as he vanished. She blocked a kunai that was aiming toward her heart. A bone fire as the underworld pushed against her as his strength overcome hers. She was pushed back in the soil. She shot a bone towards him as he deflected with his blade before kicking it right towards her face. The veins under her eyes throbbed. She was physically unable to move out of the way before the thing hit her in the temple. Her Rinne Sharingan released a massive shock wave that split the island and blew away the bone. Projection, said Blue. Kaguya hissed as his feet slammed into her gut. Hair binding technique, she breathed out with barely even a sound. Her ponytail wrapped around the both of them, holding Blue in that tight hole. All over her body, her bones came out and jut into him. His Sharingan pulse. He called out two jutsus before he turned translucent. Black wave exploded over her body. A wave of black fire. She chuckled as she blew it off, as she also blew away several sand bombs that were coming towards her skull. As Blue strapped the other launcher towards his left arm, Kaguya clapped her arms together. "Eight god vacuum fist," she said. Fist made of ferocious wind blasted out of her, ripping apart the remaining island. Blue brought out his six eyes to know as he stood on top of the fiery lake, as he brought out his twin launchers, as Kaguya hovered in mid-air. Ninja art, fall of the rising star. As Susanoo copied what he did, as him and Susanoo clenched their fists, released the needle. Pop, pop. Molten fire from the lake below him raised up with the needle. Kaguya knew better than to absorb hellish flames, so she brought up an invisible shield. He grunted as the flames slammed into her shield powerfully, as she turned as a Blue appeared right inside her chakra shield. Bam! He slammed right into her. She quickly shifted dimensions as she brought them to an icy world. The two of them rolled and fell down the face of an ice mountain. The world started to change. North became west, west became east, east became south. Left turned up, up turned right, down turned left, east turned west. As the place started to change, trying to set Blue mind off guard. Everything wasn't supposed to where it be, and that twisted logic threw his mind off. He surrounded himself with this is a no, or a cage, as he crashed down hard on the ground. What the hell? The world that he looked at seemed to come from a Uchiha worst nightmare. The curvature of the planet, and that entire universe that he was at now, was infinitely inverted. As he looked up, he saw himself there as well, face twisted and covered by snow as well. As he saw himself over to the left and over to the right, he dispelled the snow and looked around the planet, trying to find Kaguya. Kaguya ducked into a cave as she brought in a landslide to hide the cave entrance, as she panted with exhilaration. She did not actually think that the inverted form of the universe would keep him down for long. His mind was too advanced for that. But she needed to breathe and come up with a plan, as she knew one thing: she could not beat him in hand-to-hand combat as she was. She was a princess. Her upbringing was unladylike etiquette, war strategy, and clan leadership. Just like the battle with her sons, they were done with her summons and her massive reserves of chakra. Hand-to-hand combat was not her thing. Against someone as equal as her, like Blue, that possessed physical combat, the battle would end quickly. Not in her favor at all. The amaterasu flames outside rushed away at all, surrounding glaciers, burning everything. Her Byakugan looked up as she saw him, as he tried to destroy the cave to get inside. He could not project himself in here because he could not see into the cave. Or could he find the entrance? But he could sense her though. Summoning jutsu, she said. Koi fish spam out from nowhere, revolving around the interior of the cave. Like with Blue calling souls from their eternal punishment, she could call down souls from their eternal paradise. After all, shinobis can go to heaven as well. She found 4 souls that had what she needed as she absorbed them into herself, stealing their consciousness away into an inescapable prison, as she also took their abilities. Hoshirama Senju, first Hokage and god of shinobi. Ishiki Osusuke, the first person she thought was a god. Yaiko, the first leader of the Akatsuki. Konan, the angel of the hidden rain. The last person didn't really die and go to heaven. Instead was in an outer body trance, hurtling all the way to space back in Blue home dimension. Ishiki would always have a place in her heart. The memory of her blasting open his skull was something she fondly went back to when she fell down, as Naruto's fist slammed into the wall, blowing it open wards, as Kaguya was on her feet, as she was now imbued with the collection of 4 hand-to-hand combat legends. Her Rinne Sharingan widened as she moved a swinging kick towards his chest, which he ducked right under. He snapped around the roundhouse kick as she blocked it with her forearm, as he brought his other leg around and clipped her jaw as she flipped back. He did not question her newfound taijutsu skills, as he just simply pressed harder to land a hit on her. The world access point turned, and so did Blue Sharingan. Kaguya stepped away from her right hook to her face as she ducked under a knee. Flipping over, Blue brought out his other leg. Boom, the entire cave shook. Blue then lashed out with a kick as she blocked it, but she left her torso open as she received 2 powerful punches that staggered her back. She grabbed his arm and flicked him over her shoulder though. In mid-air, she twists as she brought her leg up and slammed it right into his stomach, blowing him back towards the ceiling as she flipped and landed gently on her feet, as he also landed as well. The both of them sped forward and smashed their arms together. Chakra exploded outwards, blowing the cave to pieces. The dimension quaked as avalanche went off all over the snowy patch being destroyed. She drove her arm and slammed it into his stomach as he slammed his fist right under her chin. She twisted as she flipped away as she called a Chutsukin orb that switched into a staff. She brought it down and smashed it on his forearms that had his launchers on it. As Blue turned the elongated chakra rod to the side before smashing a fist into her gut, as he then kicked her away. Faster than predicted, she got to her feet and slammed her palm right into his chest as he managed to clip her foot while she did, as she fell over and he was blasted away. She blinked as he was on top of her, his feet coming down as she rolled, his legs smashed into the ground, as the both of them was tunneling down as the entire mountain started to collapse. They broke right through. Instead of reaching the world core, they stumbled into an empty space as they clashed inside. Acknowledged that he couldn't fly like the rabbit goddess, floating in the void of space. Blue realized that he could breathe perfectly fine, yes he could. But he couldn't gain an upper hand against a girl that has been flying since she was a young girl. So he did the next best thing. Universal pull. He yanked her towards him as her hand curled around his neck, as he pulled her into a different dimension. That world wasn't one that they picked, they just dropped into one. Meanwhile, "What do you think you're doing, hag?" Yujito asked, as she finished packing up her things. Orochimaru bit her tongue as she paused. "Do not push me, Yujito," she said. "I was curious," said Yujito. She said defensively, as if her words before were to be taken like a compliment, as she entered Orochimaru's operating room with the metal table and all the equipment on the wall. "For your information, I'm waiting here on Kabuto. She was sent to Konoha to check on Itachi. If there's a problem, she would reverse summon me, and I'll take the boy to safety." As Orochimaru was nervous, given the fact who Blue was fighting and his disappearance, it wasn't making it easier. "What about Shisui, Izumi, and Sasuke?" She snorted, amused that Yujito would even bring them up. "They're none of my concern." Both of them had saw the goddess of the moon, and they saw the woman trying to obliterate everything. That scale of warfare was no longer mortal anymore. Orochimaru understood that everything depended on her son, and he was the only one that can save them from the end of existence. But she was still worrying, not for the fate of the world, but on Blue's health. She was still his mother. The man had set them down. He told Yujito, Kabuto, and the Iron Accountant that Kaguya was trying to sever his ties to the normal world. He entrusted them to look after his family, and as far as Orochimaru knew, Itachi was the only other part of Blue's family. Yujiro was tolerable, but Orochimaru was not going to look after her. Last she heard, Kushina was leading an investigation towards the Valley of the End, where the 2 powerful people were last seen. Orochimaru didn't care though. Itachi's safety concerned her. To him, those kids are just as important as Itachi. Said Yujiro, "You know that, right?" "Why are you still here?" Orochimaru said. "What?" "You're like a fly that followed the corpse into the grave. Naruto is not here and speaking to me won't get you in my good graces. I dislike your kind constantly, searching for someone bigger and stronger than Shanto. Every girl that gravitates towards him is like that. The only thing that keeping me from ripping out your filthy, pebble heart is my restraint. Do what you want, Ujito. Go to Konoha and watch over the 3 children, or seek out that annoying redhead for a little cat fight. I don't care. Just leave before my control slips. Unafraid, Ujito placed her hand on her hips. Are you done? Orochimaru snarled a bit. Yes, I'm done, she said. When you cool down and you can hold a sensible conversation, I'll be in your room. I made curry and rice. As Orochimaru watches, Ujito left the room. Hag. Orochimaru chakra flare, she snapped the table in half. On the other side, in Konoha, an Osusuki, wearing a veil, was currently sitting down on a larger Osusuki shoulder at the wreckage of the Senju compound, where Kabuto called her mistress. The dark-skinned Snake Sage stood in front of her student, crumbled form, hands at her side as she looked up. Moshiki tapped his chin. My lady called. Meanwhile, Aru, go put on a shirt, Kobayashi scolded, as a vein throbbed on her forehead as she saw the big-breasted dragon came into the living room, fresh from a bath, and in underwear that was too small for her. Aru groaned. I still don't understand you humans' fixation on clothing. It is called common decency. We live in a society, said Kobayashi. So just put something on. She looked at her watch. Now I'm going to be late for work. As Toru came in the main room, as she was in her maid outfit. I can always fly you to work, Miss Kobayashi, she said. My back can't take any more if you're flying, said Kobayashi. Kana, hurry. As the small white-haired dragon came down. As Aru grunted as she jumped towards the couch, as Toru made her way with Kobayashi, trying to convince her that eating her tail won't be poison. It won't be poison, I promise. No, it is just weird. What if I barbecue it and mix it with some beef? No. Toru then stopped mid-walk, as Kobayashi turned towards her. What's wrong? As Toru looked towards Kobayashi, before sprinting towards her and picked her up and placed her on her shoulder, as she grabbed the smaller dragon, Kana, and threw her over her shoulder as well. Kobayashi was alarmed. What the boom! An explosion went off as 2 people seemed to drop out of a warp dimension as they tear through the earth. As Blue was still locked with Kaguya as her hands were around his neck, they had dropped into another dimension, another universe. He slammed his feet into her stomach, launching her backwards as they destroyed the road. As Blue went through hand signs, fire release, fireball of a damnation. Kaguya ordered to finish her own hand signs, water release, tears of the kraken. Boom, the explosion went off as both ferocious techniques slammed into each other. As the world stopped turning, gravity faltered. More dragons, Kobayashi said, as Toru dropped her on top of a building, safe away from the clashing. But they didn't give off dragon vibes, and they didn't look like dragon. The town, said Kobayashi. Save the town! The magic that Toru will need to teleport those 2 beings was going to be immense. Fortunately, Aru rushed out of the apartment as she heard the cracking of reality and dimension. Blue smashed into Kaguya's elbow, smashing into her face as she was sent sailing. He released a massive surge of electricity that destroyed houses, cars, everything around them as Kaguya twists in mid-air. As the attack slammed right into her, Toru transformed her dragon form. As she tried to stop this woman from breaking any more buildings, she slammed into Kaguya's shoulder first, as the bones in her shoulder cracked at the impact. As Toru was shocked, as Kaguya roared, irksome dragon, as Naruto appeared in his Sano. 8. God vacuum fist, said Kaguya, as they slammed into his Sano hard, breaking right through it and sending him sailing. Aru had to quickly open a gate to her home world, because if he had smashed into the ground, the impact would be catastrophical. But still, the shockwaves reached Earth. Aru lost her arms as a result. As Kana flies straight up in the air, she had to stop an airplane from being completely destroyed, as Kaguya had slammed right into it. As Torun managed to push her stamina, she opened a gate as well and sent Kaguya in there to fight that hellish man. When she was done, she fell unconscious. As if they had not been disturbed, both Naruto and Kaguya kept on clashing. Fist counter fist, shin counter shin. Then Kaguya broke into Blue's guard and grabbed him by the throat as she smashed him right through another dimension. The both of them slammed right into a table. Jin Sakai, the ghost of Tsushima, leaped away. So did the other people on the large table at the 2 interrupters. But Kaguya was busy slamming her elbow into Blue's face as the broken reality above them oozed. As his Rinne Sharingan pulsed with a force that blew flew her off of him. Both of them burst into another dimension as Kaguya slammed into a kitchen wherever they were. She adapted as her hand moved to her right, grabbing a frying pan. As 5 needles shot towards her face, she slapped them away with the pan. As she turned her head and ducked, his feet sweeping right over her head, destroying the apartment complex they were in. Laughter could be heard as Kaguya picked up a knife and threw it, piercing through the head of Pennywise, the clown. As Naruto slammed right into her, breaking her through another dimension. Miles Morale was bobbing his head as he was listening to his tunes, working on a class assignment for the next day. As the music was rather loud, so he did not even see the 2 godly beings breaking through his reality and breaking to another. He felt the breeze though as he turned. What the hell? Meanwhile, Thanos chuckled as he held up the Infinity Gauntlet as he watched the Avengers, powerless to do anything. I am inevitable. As he was about to snap it, Tony Stark was moving in to make an exchange until a sound of glass interrupted them. As a beast broke right through reality, the thing was large. It had 2 large horns, as it had the prominent features of a rabbit, 1 single eye with black rings and red commas. 10 tails were behind it, with 10 truth-seeking arms behind it swaying demonically. As the creature flashed out 2 of his tails that grabbed onto Thanos and threw him towards a rip of reality. Another beast burst right through the reality, as this was Naruto 10-tailed beast form. It was a behemoth, a black hole of a thing that eclipsed their planet, weighing down aside the universe with a massive white creature. It was miles and miles upon darkness. 4 horns were coming from the thing's head, with the flames on top of them blazing hot red. Its arms open wide, its own 10 tails flee behind him, with the 10 truth-seeking orbs floating. Its eye scarred those who were conscious as they fell. The look of pure damnation and suffering was something that people could not overcome. As Kaguya grabbed onto Thanos' spaceships and threw them, as Blue opened his mouth in a giant form. Giant 10-tailed spinning ball. The beam of pure chakra obliterated the spaceships. The beam then slammed into Kaguya as she fell on some of Thanos' soldiers and some of the Avengers. Unable to get away in time, Thanos bellowed as he held his gauntlet towards the blue-tailed beast, calling upon the Mind Stone. He didn't stand a chance. Blue glanced down towards him. The fire of hell burned frantically in his one Rinne Sharingan eye. Thanos watched as the Mind Stone pop. Then Naruto stepped right on the Mad Titan as Blue rushed forward towards Kaguya, who was slowly rising up. Their heads slammed in together, cracking reality. Kaguya returned back to her physical form as she felt tired. As Blue turned back smaller, she pulled him into a different reality. Kaguya hoped that her clanmates were making quick work of the Elemental Nation at Konoha. The issue was not killing Naosuke, it was killing many at once. That was the problem. War came to the Elemental Nations as they descend like angels coming from the heavens. Hundreds of thousands of them, bearing Rinnegan and the blood line of the rabbit goddess. Their instructions weren't to burn the planet but subdue it and ready for the mistress annihilation. But their methods were dark and heavy-handed. Orochimaru held up Nagato's head by his red hair as his Rinnegan flared, forming a barrier. As a beam slammed into the barrier, throwing her right through the Uchiha compound. As everyone that could hold a hand was fighting, as elders were taking young children towards the forest to get them out of the destruction. The Blue Uchiha knew what was happening, and even though he couldn't be there, he did the next best thing. He summoned the dead of the underworld to fight. Any ninja that died or samurai was brought back, having the memories of falling down the abyss, but they jumped right back into the fray. Any dead Osutskis that were defeated had their souls swapped with a long, since dead long shinobi to fight with the remaining shinobis. As Orochimaru found Shisui trying his best to tend to Itachi, dislocated right knee. As Izumi twirled her staff as she looked towards Osutsuki in front of her in a pink jumpsuit. Sasuke was crying as Blue nephew spotted Orochimaru first, running to them, replacing Nagato's head as she brought out a medical kit. Her chakra is too toxic to perform medical ninjutsu. Help her, said Itachi as the lady Izumi was facing off against yanked her bow staff out of her hand with gravity as she smashed it on Izumi's shoulder and slammed her feet into her stomach as Izumi dropped to the ground in agonizing pain. As Orochimaru saw that the woman wanted to set an example rather than killing them, as she decided to focus on Itachi. Help her, Itachi said. Stay still, brat, she said. She glanced towards Shisui, Give him something to bite on and hold him still. But Shisui, 3 totem Sharingan, was looking at the woman. That shatter eyes me. Collarbone. His eyes were raging. Damn it, Orochimaru said, I'll do it myself. But Itachi didn't want this. Help her, he said. Granny, please help her. She listened. She didn't want to, but she listened. Orochimaru always wanted to be a grandmother. Stay down, I'll be right back. She looked towards Shisui, who was exhausted from the earlier fight. Look after them. As she gave him a bottle of pill and water. That's an experimental blend. Still, a pain receiver in the experimental phase. Give 2 tablets to him and make sure he's sitting up by the time that he downs them. It's very important that he's upright. Can you do that? Shisui nodded as he held onto the bottle of water and tablets. Great, Orochimaru said. The things I do to be a granny. She certain didn't think her son would give her grandbabies, and constantly suggesting for him to settle down with Kabuto was heading nowhere. She couldn't have natural children of her own, Naruto being a miracle case. Seeing that she never wanted children in the beginning and now she wanted an army of offspring. Her hope was on her son for having kids, for her to have grandchildren, but he doesn't seem like he wants to settle down. It's too bad her son and her protege would have made such good babies. Orochimaru would have spoiled in fact. The Otsutsuki looked up and turned her head as Orochimaru was sprinting towards her, as she was drawing in natural energy as she entered Sage Mode. But guys, if you end subs right here, if you want the next person to do, like, subscribe, comment down below and turn on that bell notification they posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in your social media platform. But I'm off for now. See you guys soon. Peace out.